Serious? What is the stupidest reason a random stranger was mad at you? What happened? This would sound stupid to some of you. I was 10 and I was playing at a public park. Suddenly, a 6-year kid came near me and started confronting me. She said I was too old to play in the kids area. I wanted to ask her, who the heck are you? Did I bother your butt? It was embarrassing because a kid was scolding me in front of so many people. Her mom thought that I was harassing her and started running towards us. She shouted at me without knowing what actually happened. And people was praising that freaking kid for being brave. I did nothing wrong. The swing wasn't her mom's property and she talked as if she's the mayor of our town. I didn't react that much, but I want to go back in time and punch that kid and her stupid mom. You met the chihuahua of the playground. I bought the last cream-filled donut at a Jolly Pirates and the old lady behind me in line took this as a declaration of war, saying that I took it from her. The worker chimes in saying they're making more and they'd be ready in about half an hour. But she wasn't having it. I hope she's doing okay. It was such a silly thing to get mad over. I once had a guy at the beach yell at me to stop laughing. I wasn't laughing at him at all, just laughing to myself because I was happy and having fun. My ex used to do this. He thought people were laughing at him and he would get angry. Yes, he is nuts. Had some lady get mad at me last night in a Walmart because I wasn't an employee there and couldn't help her. Last I checked, Walmart employees don't wear bright but yellow shirts with reflective safety striping, faux badges on their sleeves, or wear slippers while on duty. Yeah, this happened to me at McDonald's once. Some lady was mad at me for knowing how to work the touchscreen ordering kiosk but not actually being an employee there. She acted like I had willfully bamboozled her for a sick laugh. A guy yelled at me from balcony because I didn't pick up after dog. He couldn't understand that my dog only peed. I had to explain to him that female dogs need to squat to pee. He also couldn't accept the fact that she is a female dog because she just looks like male. American Akita. I was 8 years old, swimming in a swimming pool and a woman nearby frowned at me and said, "Ugh, lose some weight." I didn't know how to respond. I just started crying. Me and a friend were around 13. While we were waiting to cross the road, we started talking about the sushi that we were about to eat at her place. Both very excited. After not even a minute, this huge bald man standing in front of us whips around and just yells at us to shut the frick up, with the look of a man who would not hesitate to punch a child. So we did, and then had to walk in the same direction as him for the next 5 minutes. It was a pleasant experience. I had someone yell down from a window to shut up when I was walking by, humming to myself. I stopped and looked around to make sure that he was indeed telling me not to hum in public in the middle of the day. Then I carried on my way, singing full volume. I said hi to her. This was back when Bluetooth was a semi-new technology. She was wearing a BT earpiece and I didn't see it. I was walking home from school and she was standing out in her driveway. She said hi and started talking. I turned and looked at her. Didn't see anyone or her phone, so I said hi back while continuing to walk. She got a disgusted look on her face, pulled her hair back from her ear, and snapped, "Can you not see I'm on the phone?" I just left and didn't respond. There was the time some weirdo on the bus threatened to kill me because he thought I'm a policeman's son sent to tail him. Apparently I'd gotten on the same bus as him twice in the same day. Brought my big dogs into big dog side of dog park. 2 ladies with 7 chihuahuas started screaming at me and then tried to tase me. Needless to say that the cops got involved. I was in the park with a friend and this guy was on a bike coming really fast. I moved enough for him to get through, but when he passed he said "move" in an angry tone and I still think about it. This reminds me of the time I was standing next to my mom's car in a parking lot when I was like 10. This teenager young adult pulls into the space next to us, almost running me over. Like she moved really fast. I didn't see her coming or anything. And the guy was with her said, "Dang, you almost ran her over." And she said something to the effect of, "Well, she was in the way." I found a coin and put it in my pocket. Some dude called me poor because I picked up dirty money and all I said was, "Richer than you." He beat me up and nearly broke my neck. If you're reading this, frick you and get help. A ridiculous case of mistaken identity. I was playing on the school playground by myself at the end of the day, probably aged about 7. My mum usually arrived to pick me up about 5 minutes after the end of the last bell, so I was just minding my business and swinging across the monkey bars until her car pulled up. A random lady started shouting from across the field at me, "Sarah, get here now. Do not make me wait." Sarah is not my name, and I was the only kid on the playground at the time. I looked over at her confused, even gestured a kind of signal to her, but she couldn't see my facial features in the distance and still thought I was her kid. She continued, "Sarah, don't make me come over there. It's time to go. You will be in so much trouble. Stop ignoring me." The lady kept shouting and sounded like she was getting angrier. I tried to ignore her because even my little kid brain had realized that she'd mistaken me for her own child. I then started getting worried because she had started marching across the field towards the playground, all the while screaming about the punishments Sarah would revive for not following her instructions. "That's it. I'm going to smack your bum all night when we get home. You're not going to know what's hit you." I ended up hiding behind the slide, and when she finally got to the playground, she looked at me, realized that I was not her child, and sheepishly said, "Oh, not Sarah," before turning on her heels and leaving. Funny thing was, my school was very small, less than 100 kids, and there were no girls named Sarah attending then. Sarah lady is sus. Already posted another, but I have one from working on a bookshop. It was a small bookshop specialized on fantasy SF books, and for some reason, we were sometimes listed as esoteric shop. The owner tried to fix it for years and then basically gave up. One evening a lady calls, "Hello, I am looking for a pendulum. Do you sell these?" "Sorry madam, we are actually a bookshop. We only sell books, but you are listed as esoteric shop." "Yes, this is a mistake. We are a bookshop. Do you know where I can find a pendulum?" "Sorry, maybe try the antiques shops." "Miss, I am looking for a pendulum. To find someone, not a clock." The words are very similar in French. Yes, I understand that, but I don't know where they sell pendulums. Antiques shops may have some, I guess. "I'm sorry, I don't know." "Ugh, and I guess you are closing soon?" "Well, yes, but we don't have any pendulum anyways." "Well, have you checked?" "Well, we only sell books, so you really are good for nothing. I hope you will never sell anything ever again." Hangs up. I do hope this lady is okay. She seemed very desperate to find someone. We still don't sell pendulums though. Haha, imagine not being able to make a pendulum. Haha, like just go to Home Depot and put some crap on a string. Mayo. It was Christmas Day 2020. I was at work at the register, gas station, while a customer walks up to a food warmer. Customer asks if all we have is pizza. Advised we had more food like burgers etc. coming up in about 10 minutes. Customer yells, "Great, now all I get is this freaking pizza," and proceeds to pick a slice then throw it on the counter at me. I'm so sorry. Gas station work can be a bee sometimes. Waiting at a bus stop after school, some random guy sits next to me and tries to sell me weed. I tell him I'm not interested and he gets up and stands away near the curb as a bus approaches and he gets on. Then he sits at the back of the bus and looks out the window at me and just starts throwing me the middle finger while aggressively mouthing some words. Haha. It was on here. I used the word then instead of an. I got a message from this guy saying I am a effing idiot and not to breed. Also that I must be fat and my husband is cheating on me. I laughed it off and blocked him. I'm sorry, they were so mean, but I'm cracking up trying to imagine someone getting that angry about a grammar mistake. I used to work at Sainsbury's local supermarket chain in the UK, and some drunk dude tried to start a fight with me because I told him we don't sell individual cans of beer, only a 4-pack or more. I told him I don't make the rules and if you just want one can we have charge for 4. He starts getting more and more irate and eventually clenches his fist and squares up to me. Keep in mind I'm just 19 and this dude is like 40. Luckily my manager saw this escalating and stepped in before it kicked off and asked the guy to leave. Oh, retail work. I do not miss you one bit. I have so many horror stories. Working in retail fast food in high school. That's all you need to say, right? But really, Karens existed well before 2020. One time working at a fast food chain, I was asked for 1 extra honey mustard sauce. Our particular franchisee had strict limits and we had managers all over the place. I needed my job at the time, so I told them there was an extra charge for more sauce. They wouldn't pay, left in a rage and said when I get off work, they are going to shoot me. A friend and I, both around 18 at the time, used to attend the local gym and work out together quite frequently. Being typical 18-year-olds, we would find many things funny for really no apparent reason. A lot of the time this led to uncontrollable laughter. Well, on one specific occasion another young man noticed our laughter that I can honestly say was directed at no one. He was working out on the complete opposite end of the gym. After a short while we noticed him approaching us, and with a very distasteful look asked if we had spit in his shaker cup. Taken aback, we couldn't think of a response. He asked again, this time a little more anger in his voice, to which we laughingly replied something to the effect of, are you seriously asking if 2 strangers grabbed your shaker cup and spit in it for no reason? This seemed to upset him even more because of the giggles that still could not be controlled. He went off on a screaming rampage and even went as far as to tell the gym manager. At the end of it all he was asked to leave, while me and my friend continued our workout laughing away at the events that just took place. I smiled at him. He was angry when he found out I wasn't the only person he smiled at. I worked in retail at the time. Customer service, mate. I was alone with 2 of my kids, age 1 and 5. I was parked by the curb and getting my 5-year-old out street side, while my baby was still in his car seat. Bicyclist comes up on me getting the kids out of the car and yells, get out of my way, Jew. My kid and I freeze. Then he shouts, share the road butthole. As an aside, I'm Central European, and while not Jewish, am sometimes the victim of anti-Semitic slurs. My 5-year-old broke down crying and I had to buy him a candy bar. Holy crap, I'm so sorry you guys had to deal with that. I hope you and your family are doing okay. My phone number got spoofed and whoever did it called someone and then hung up after not saying anything. Butthole then proceeds to call the number, me, back, screaming about how I'm a horrible person for hanging up on them and wasting their time. I tried to explain it to him, as I had been receiving confused voicemails for a while, but he wouldn't let me get a word in. He was screaming so loud his voice was breaking, over what was probably a 5-10 second scam call. It was unbelievable. Myself and some friends were walking home from some underage event. We were probably 16 or so. We took a shortcut through some estate and this absolute Karen confronts us backed up by what I can only assume were fellow PTA members, and accuses us of stealing potted plants from their gardens. We had literally just arrived and tried to explain this, but she was having none of it and threatened to get the police involved. Eventually she gave us a stern warning and left, so naturally we then did the mature thing and stole her potted plants, left them down the road, peed on them a little and headed home. A couple of years ago in a parking lot, my brother and I were goofing around on our way back to our car. I accidentally tripped and fell right next to someone else's car, and the owner of said car was sitting inside of it. She got out, gave us the dirtiest look, and inspected the rear end of her car, thinking that I had run into it or damaged it in some way. I hadn't even touched it. I only hit the ground. Literally no reason for her to be mad. Don't get near my car, people are the worst. I was in a supermarket queuing at a self-service checkout. This big guy in front of me in the queue had a basket in his hand and was next up to the till. Someone who must have known him, but wasn't with him, lightheartedly threw a bag of nuts into this guy's basket and quickly stepped to the side out of view. Big guy picks up the nuts and slams them onto the floor and stares directly at me. Neither of us said anything, but this guy looked so pee off like I'd just spat on him. Luckily his mate noticed and came over to defuse the situation. Should have started eating nuts while maintaining eye contact. I was at a hiking trail a few weeks ago. I like going there because it is usually empty and the people who are there always wear masks. As I was coming back from the loop, a couple is coming in the opposite direction. She's wearing a mask, he isn't. As we get closer, he looks at me and says, angrily, I am not wearing a mask, and then his girlfriend grabs his arm and pulls him away to continue up the trail. Every single other person I saw on the trail that day was wearing a mask. He wasn't lying though. I got myself dragged through the mud and banned from a bunch of cat groups on Facebook lol. My crime? I was referring to a portly, larger cat as a chonk, and I made a quite unfortunate finger slip and hit the I as opposed to the O that I needed. Hit post and went out for a ciggy, come back to hundreds of replies calling me a racist, and when I tried to explain it, they got even angrier. Always proofread your comments before posting. This is absolute gold. I was pulling into a post office and was going to allow the car coming the other way the chance to go first. They didn't take it, so I turned in and got the last parking space. While in line, this older woman and her daughter came in. The older woman shouts, "Hey dog breath," and starts screaming at me that I cut her off in traffic. I mean horrific screaming with spit flying out of her mouth, everyone looking at me. I was no more than 18 and I stuttered when defending myself, and she made fun of me stuttering and told me she'd see me outside in the parking lot. I paid for my package and got out immediately. This was 30 plus years ago, but I'm still traumatized by it. Jesus, what a bee. In California, you can book an appointment for the DMV to save yourself hours of wasted time. I walked in about 5 minutes before and this jackass near the front of the walk-up line shouts, "Back of the line, buddy, there are 2 lines. One for appointments and one for walk-ups." At first I started to walk toward the line he was in, then asked the guy behind him if he has an appointment. He shakes his head. I turned around and walked to the front and tell the receptionist I have an appointment. She takes my ID, checks me in, and gives me a number. I looked back at dude, but he looked legitimately pee and refused to make eye contact. I was out of there in less than 15 minutes. Meanwhile, he's still in the line having barely moved. Mind your own goddamn business and learn to use the systems available to everyone if you don't want to look stupid. This same thing happened at Best Buy a few days later. Dude was fuming because I ordered through in-store pickup and was in and out of there quick. He even said that he was next and I had to point out to him that we are in 2 different lines, only to be helped by the next agent. No idea where these people come off telling complete strangers how things work. I was at parked a gas station waiting on my so who was inside of the station. One of the guys hanging out outside of the gas station asked me for a lighter or matches. I told him that I don't smoke, which is true, and don't have a lighter or matches on me because of that. He freaked out, starting cussing me out, kicked my car tires, and made it into a whole race thing to anybody who would listen. The people who passed by him just ignored him for the most part. One guy went so far as to tell him to leave me alone. I pulled away and circled back to pick up my then so and left. Crossing the road on my bike where it is clearly marked that you are allowed to. The idiot in the car even got out and started throwing names like a kindergarten and calling me a P because I walked off. There was this one time I tried to give my seat to an old man. He said no. I asked whether he was sure or not and he yelled at me and told me to sit the frick down. That was really unexpected. I was at a Jack Hanna show when I was like 7 and they were bringing out animals onto the stage. One of the first animals was a kangaroo and I had never seen one before, so I was really excited because I love kangaroos. Then the lady in of me told me to be quiet when I was whispering to my friend about them. There was nothing to listen to because they were just bringing out the animals to show the audience. This lady and her annoying son now haunt me. Breathing. I have a deviated septum from a broken nose, and a girl in middle school once got so annoyed at me breathing too loud, insisting that I was doing it on purpose and a broken nose doesn't make you breathe like that, that she threw a fit and got herself detention. I told this lady she should watch her kid BC. The little brat was playing with a till in one of the closed checkout lines. She flipped crap at me. My little angel can do no wrong and has the right to do anything they want. Makes my blood boil, especially if they were doing something more unsafe and the parent gets peer to for trying to let them know. In a supermarket while my partner was picking out a greetings card, the aisle was busy, so I pulled our pram containing our then 4-month-old baby in closer to the card so as not to block people's path going up and down the aisle. Apparently I blocked the view of the greetings cards from an irate boomer and her chum. The first I knew she was even there was when she appeared behind me right at my shoulder and pushed the pram our son away from me and said, "I can't see," or something to that effect. I replied, "Oh sorry," as I still was a bit baffled about what was happening. She sarcastically responded, "Yeah, you look it," so I told her just to say excuse me or wait till we were done. Standard greetings card browsing etiquette. This further enraged her and she shouted that she has been waiting. We'd literally just got there and she appeared out of nowhere. My son was looking at her by this point thinking you're not my freaking mother, and she was effectively standing between me and him yelling, which is when the red mist descended. I looked her dead in the eye and said do not freaking touch my pram and pulled it back from her. When they realized I definitely wasn't nah move now, her and her pal scurried away. ETA. This was back in 2015 BC, before COVID. I would not have been calm if someone had moved my infant child away from me like that. First day of high school softball and the seniors were introducing themselves and I whispered to my friend that one was really pretty. I've always assumed they thought I was crap talking because I was then violently bullied by the seniors until I quit 4 months later. She stopped being pretty when she threw a softball full force at the back of my head from like 10 feet away. Because I got an Uber and she screamed at me that she wanted my taxi. I had been waiting at a bus stop trying to get to work and realized that my bus was running way behind schedule. It was cold and I didn't want to be late for my shift, so I order an Uber. The car pulls up and I wave at the driver signaling where I was and he pulls up to me. I'm getting in the car and confirming my name when this middle-aged woman starts yelling at me about stealing her cab. The driver and I both try to explain to her that it's an Uber. You order the car through the app, and I've already paid for it, but she's not having it. You're so rude. I have just as much a right to a cab as you. Okay, so get a cab or download Uber. She was cursing myself and the driver out even as the bus pulled up behind up at the stop. We live in a city where Uber, Lyft, Juno, Via, etc. are all very popular and are advertised in abundance, so I don't know how she didn't understand the difference between any of these car services and a regular taxi. I arrived back at my house after a day at work and saw a man knocking on my door. I parked the car in the garage and stepped back outside to meet him. He was wearing a name tag and asked me to contribute to the county's ambulance fund. I am a government employee and all required support equipment is issued to me, and my health insurance pays for my ambulance rides, so this seemed to be a strange request. I let him know that a guy showing up at my house with a story and a name tag isn't going to convince me to give him money. He got angry and yelled, "Well, I hope you don't need an ambulance ride soon." I escorted him to the edge of my property and that was the end of it. I was walking in a hospital trying to call my dad and this lady stops and starts yelling at me for calling on my phone in a hospital. I just looked at her and let her finish then left. I walked into a shop to buy some smokes. There was 2 registers and both had people being served. I stopped at the entrance near the register that sold the smokes. At the same second a lady walks to where the line for the registers start. She got upset that I didn't walk all the way into the shop to the line. She assumed I was going to cut in front of her. I wasn't, but how was she to know? Plus the non-smokes register was more likely to be free before the one I wanted anyway. She has a go at me and to make her happy I go stand behind her. The 2 other customers are still at the checkouts. I then think to myself I can go to the shop next door and buy my smokes. I say excuse me and walk past the lady out of the shop. While I am paying for my smokes in the next shop she walks past and yells at me that I am rude. I laughed at her. The only reason I was rude was in her own head. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.